Well, hello. My name is David Rozovsky. I'm the Provost and the Senior Vice President for the University of Vermont, and it is my pleasure to welcome all of you to today's very special lecture. It's high noon here in the Davis Center. It's also high noon for the state of Vermont. As we sit on the cusp between AM and PM, we also find ourselves as a state on the cusp of an election. The next administration, of course, will face challenges that are well known, but we'll also have some very exciting opportunities to vector Vermont toward a true innovation economy. This is a pathway that we have started down, thanks in part to today's speaker and a committee that he chaired in 2011-2012, but that work's not yet complete. The transformation of the state of Vermont into an economic engine built around innovation, smart energy sources and systems, and sustainable business practices will require focus and commitment of the next administration. I've had the personal pleasure of knowing today's speaker for the last 7 years. He's been an advisor and a mentor and a sounding board and a good friend. He's also a highly accomplished engineer, business leader, innovation advocate, and thought leader. He has advised governors, members of Congress, and presidents. And while his professional accomplishments are simply too numerous to list today, let me offer just a few highlights. Nick is a 44-year IBM veteran who led IBM's technology and innovation strategies from 1997 to 2008 as Senior Vice President of Technology and Manufacturing and as Executive Vice President for Innovation and for Technology. He is elected as an IBM Fellow, which is the company's highest technical honor. He was elected in 2008. In 2002-2003, he led the effort for the Council on Competitiveness around something called the National Innovation Initiative. That went on to something you may have heard of before. It went on to become the America Competes Act. In 2005, the U.S. Department of Education appointed him to a commission on the future of higher education, a 20-member delegation of business and university leaders charged with developing a national strategy for post-secondary education to meet the needs of America's diverse population and workforce. A member of the National Academy of Engineering, Nick chaired the 2015 report, Making Value for America, Embracing the Future of Manufacturing, Technology, and Work. This landmark report lays out the stark truths about how work is changing, the implications for that change for the United States, the need for innovation and for collaboration, and many other poignant recommendations for our future. He served as a member of the Prime Minister of Taiwan's Science and Technology Advisory Board. He has been a senior fellow at the Kauffman Foundation, and he was co-chair of the U.S. Secretary of Energy's Advisory Board. Now about that report I mentioned at the beginning. In 2011-2012, Nick chaired a special committee tasked by the Governor of Vermont, Peter Shumlin, to evaluate the relationship between the state of Vermont and its flagship public research university, the University of Vermont. That report, which became known around the state and the university as the Donofrio report, contained 12 specific recommendations to advance the relationship between the state and UVM, to focus the university's educational and research agenda, and better position the university as an economic driver and engine for the state of Vermont. Really, it was more than 12 because some of those recommendations contained multiple recommendations. So when I added them up, there were 17 specific recommendations. And as Nick was preparing for today's talk, he asked me how we'd been doing in making progress against those recommendations in the Donofrio report. And we'd never really tallied that up. So it was a good opportunity to do just that. And of the 17 recommendations, I'm very proud to announce that 14 have been completely addressed or are in the process of being addressed. Only 3 remain without progress yet to report, and those are the responsibility of the state. I won't list them all, but let me tell you some of the things that have happened. We have eliminated the 40% rule, which allows the university to compete for out-of-state students while maintaining its commitment to access and affordability for Vermonters. This was done by the legislature last session. We're moving toward doubling the size of our STEM programs. This is happening. We're creating new collaborations and new academic and research programs in partnership with Fletcher Allen, which was the recommendation. Of course, this has been being done. No better evidence of this is the recent name change to the University of Vermont Medical Center and the University of Vermont Health Network. But we're also seeing new academic programs, shared facilities, and joint hiring. Nick's report also suggested that we position UVM to assume a leadership role in the state and in the nation in the evolving field of food systems. This is happening. The recommendations also include creating an institute that attracts and integrates great thinkers and innovators to solve the world's most pressing problems. As it happens, the Institute for Environment is moving through the Faculty Senate later this afternoon for their review and approval. The report says to develop and implement strategies to create on-campus and off-campus innovation centers. Many of you are well aware of the work that VSET has done here on campus in Burlington, as well as in Middlebury. Our Office of Technology Commercialization, now UVM Innovations, the work of BTV Ignite, the work of our Spark program, and so forth and so on. The report also suggested that we tell our stories and brand these stories appropriately to tell Vermont and the world of our successes and our accomplishments. And those of you that are part of the UVM community know this is something that we're undertaking as well in partnership with 160/90, but also as evidenced by new communications and new creative strategies. So altogether, this is really quite remarkable and important progress, and I think maybe even surprised Nick and his original committee a little bit. As we prepare for the next administration, the time seems right to reevaluate this relationship between the state and the University of Vermont, and to develop the next set of recommendations to further enhance and extend the partner of this important partnership. As the state's flagship public research university, UVM stands ready and willing to contribute to the solutions needed for a sustainable future for our great state. It's with this backdrop, Nick's background and experience, and the progress that we've made against the recommendations of the Donofrio report of 2012, that I now welcome Nick to deliver his lecture, Beyond Politics, It's Time to Build Vermont's Innovation Economy. Please join me in welcoming Nick Donofrio.
Thank you, David. Well, David, thank you. Thank you very much, and thank you all for that very warm welcome. I almost feel like we should just go directly into questions, given how long that introduction took. Just chewing up the clock. And there's so much to talk about and so little time to actually talk about it. That report, I'm not going to refer to it again. It's 4 years old. It's time that report graduates. And if I had to give grades for the graduation of that report, I would give UVM cum laude grades. I would give the state of Vermont, you need another semester. So there's a few more things that need to be done. And I'm sure that Vermont in its new leadership and its new legislature will go to work on the last two dangling participles, which I think are terribly important recommendations. One of them speaks to forgiveness of student debt and coming up with a creative program that finds a way to keep talent in Vermont and uses that student debt as an attraction to keep you here for some number of years. I don't mean to make you an indentured servant or anything like that, but you can get the picture, right? You can do the math yourself and figure out what it would take to keep you here. And the second is we have to find new and more resourceful ways for the state to prioritize investments in higher education. And this can't be done trivially. This is in the complex rubric of a state of what, less than 600,000 people, a state that has its own set of challenges, but everyone knows that the path forward, I don't think it's arguable, I don't think it's debatable, at least I'm not going to debate it with you, is through education. And just remember what David said, UVM is Vermont's only research university. It can be the flagship. It's the only ship, in this armada, for goodness sakes. Vermont, the state of Vermont should be prioritizing its spending towards UVM as well. Not just as part of what the allocations are for support, but when the state of Vermont wants work done, my words in this report were, first right of refusal is UVM. First opportunity to do anything should be UVM. It's your school. It's your school. Okay, I'm done with the report. I truly am. I am graduating myself, out of this. Whoever the new governor is, whatever the new legislature, they're going to have to re-enroll me if they expect any more work from me on this report. So it's in your hands. It's in your hands. There are lots of other reports that I want to talk with you about this afternoon now, I guess. This whole topic of innovation. What is it? What is it? I talked to a number of people who deal with innovation every day, here in Vermont. It was a centerpiece of our report as well. The whole idea around innovation is quite simple, and it goes back to the work I did for the Council on Competitiveness that David referenced. By the way, all the reports that I'm talking to you about today, they're all public documents. You can get them all off of the web if you are like me and prefer not to actually print. The Council on Competitiveness report, NII, the National Innovation Initiative, it's still there, still downloadable for free. Remember, we did this work 2003, 2004. It's pretty simple. Innovation. What do you think innovation is? What do you think it is? What do you think it is? Is it an invention? Is it technology? Is it a creation? Is it a discovery? What do you think? He says a combination, and he's absolutely wrong. And we're not taking names, so you're not going to get graded. Don't worry. It's not. It could be that. It once was that. It's the creation of value. That's what innovation is. The creation of value. No value is created. There's no innovation. Plain and simple. It can be economic value. What other value can it be besides economic? Cultural value. What other value? Political value. Thank you very much. What other value? Social value. Educational value. There's no limit to it, is there? All that value is there to be created by innovative people. How do you do that? How do you do that? And why do you do it when no one else does it? This is a very vexing problem. Well, and I'm an engineer, by the way. I should have said that right from the beginning. So I start from that end of every perspective. I start at that end. So I want to start with the answer because that's what they taught me in engineering school. That's why I went for freaking 4 years at RPI. That's why I ground away as a tool there. They sharpened me. They honed me. That is exactly the wrong place to start. You don't start with the answer. What do you start with? If you don't start with the answer, what do you start with? The question, the problem. Here's an A student right here. You start with the problem and you work your way back. You work your way back. Think about it. Think about the people who in your mind were the most innovative. Steve Jobs, would we say he was innovative? We'd give him good grades, right? God rest his soul. I knew him. We were friends. We were colleagues. We did battle together, but always in a very respectful way. Hey, how the hell are you? It's so good to see you again. I'm sorry. I can't help myself. Every once in a while I see a face and I remember, and there you go. Would we say that Steve Jobs was a good engineer? Would we say that? Would we say he was a good engineer? You could say he's a lousy engineer. He actually was not an engineer. He didn't know the first thing about engineering. What did he know about? The problem. He studied the problem better than anyone. Better than anyone. The iPod. Anybody have an iPod? I actually have one in my bag, you and me. Okay, there's two of us who are honest. The iPod. Where did the iPod come from? Where did it come from? There you go, listen to him. And what else? There was more. MP3 players. Yeah? How about that company that screwed it all up? Remember that company? There was so much stuff already being tried on downloading music. And it was all wrong. And it all got itself in trouble. It all got itself in trouble. And Steve studied that. He used to just amaze me with the details he could come up with as to how people made mistakes. And then, because he studied it so well, he would put it back together in a right and proper way. So iPods, which became iPads, which became iPhones, which is the I of Apple now, all started with someone else's mistake. Someone else got it wrong. He studied the problem, and he got it right. The iPod itself has not one innovative idea in it. I know the guy who made it for him. He's a good friend of mine, engineer from New York City, actually went to California. Believe it or not, now he's the listen to this, he's the co-CEO of Bridgewater. You know what Bridgewater is? It's a big investment company in Connecticut. He's the co-CEO of Bridgewater. He's had failure after failure, by the way, after the iPod and after he left Apple. But John Rubinstein's a wonderful guy. He figured it out. A little bit of plastic, a little bit of glass, a little hard drive, 2 little simple circuits, bang. Out comes the lovely little device which I paid $250 for 100 years ago, called the iPod. Clever, right? We give him innovation grades very high. Started with the problem. The second thing Steve understood, which you, I don't think, would understand because you see him from a distance, he knew what he didn't know. That's why he hired John Rubinstein. You know, he wasn't a good engineer. You know what Steve used to obsess with? The back of the printed circuit board. You know what a printed circuit board is. I know this crowd knows what. He would obsess with the lack of symmetry of the board. Oh, no, we have to move these capacitors over here. Those resistors have to go over here. I said, why? It looks better. You don't sell it because it looks better. Nobody sees it. It's inside. Only you know. Only you know it's not symmetrical. Only you know it doesn't pass your test of aesthetically pleasing. So he turned it over to John. John had the skills. John had the wherewithal. Steve gave him the money. And history is made. History is made. It's what innovators do. They know what they don't know. They know they need multiple disciplines. And if it can't be them, they have to bring people into their circle who have those disciplines, who can discipline them to get the job done. In a very strange way, Steve was also a very open person. Doesn't sound like that's right to you, but in his circle, in his community, inside Apple, he was very open. Tell him he's a jerk, he'll tell you you're a jerk. I mean, it didn't matter. It didn't matter. I remember he went back to Apple. You weren't paying him any money, right? He took no salary, just took stock, made you to buy his other company. So it's very interesting the way he wove together the problem, multidiscipline, an open environment. And to his friends, even to me, very collaborative. To the rest of the world, not so. So therein lies the core platform for innovation. Start with the problem, be open, collaborative, multidisciplined, and I'll add one more, which he did not necessarily ascribe to, and that is be global. Be global in the way you think. You have no choice. You really have no choice. The markets you want, the world of talent you need, it can be anywhere and everywhere. So innovators know that and go everywhere and look everywhere for the talent they need to get the job done. So Steve was not an engineer. I'm not even sure he graduated from college. I think they gave him a degree after the fact, like a lot of very bright and gifted people. So what about the talent you need to get the job done? Where does that talent come from? Where do innovative people come from? They could come from UVM. There's no reason for them not to come from. They have come from UVM. There's no reason for them to continue to come. The more you embrace that platform and the more T-shaped, especially the students and the faculty here, the more T-shaped you educate people to, the more T-shaped you make that model, bona fide but broad, the better the better off you are and the more likely you are to be an innovator. I was an inventor at IBM. These guys in this row here invented more stuff than I could ever possibly have invented, but I'll stick with my crappy little 6 patents. You know, that's when patents were really patents, by the way, not the way they are right now. I mean, it took a lot of work to get those patents. I want you to know that. But I thought I was an innovator as an inventor, and I found out I wasn't an innovator as an inventor. You know, they don't necessarily go hand in hand anymore, is my point. Invention, creation, and discovery, they used to get the job done. They used to be the innovation. That's not what it is now. It's evolved. That value creation is what you have to figure out how to see what everybody sees, which is what Steve did, and unlock that hidden value in your unique and facile way of doing that. Are you getting my picture? You see what I'm... So that means everybody could be an innovator, right? History major, art major, music major, language major, doctor, lawyer, God forbid. You know, that's okay. My son's a lawyer. He's sitting right here. We love lawyers. I like to get that in to get that rise out of you. They're some of the best innovators because they're where the problems are. They're not bound up in the technology of the moment. They're not bound up with, I actually understand the laws of physics. I understand chemistry. I understand life sciences. I know why things are going to get bigger and why things are going to get smaller. I really do. And they're going to get bigger and smaller. Technology is going to allow us to do that. I mean, you know, what's the biggest thing you can think of? Well, how do you measure bigness? Do you have a frame of reference? Do you? Well, yeah, that's very big. Let's dial it back a little bit. So let's talk to me in orders of magnitude. What's the biggest, you know, are you a megabyte person? Are you a gigabyte person? You're a gigabyte person. Okay, and how about you? Gigabyte, okay. How about small? How about the smallest thing you can think of? What do you think of when you say small? Not an inch. Pixel? A pixel, that's pretty small. So what would we say that's a couple of millimeters? Something like that, right? All right, so here's the deal. Those are all going to get blown away in the next 12 years, next 15 years. We're going to be talking about big things in yada, a yada byte. A yada, you know what a yada is? 10 to the 24th. Yada, yada, yada. It's a yada, yada. And small, you know where we're going to go with small? To a yocto, 10 to the minus 24th. So big things get big, small things get small. It's going to continue to happen. It's going to continue to happen. And there's going to be some people in the room that make it happen. But there's going to be more of you that use it, that benefit from it, that take advantage of it, to become creative and innovative, to do things that weren't done before. There'll be a lot of disruption going on the technology front. Great opportunity for engineers and scientists. Silicon's going to disappear the way you understand it today. We're going to find something else to replace it with. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be fun like when I was your age. I started out with vacuum tubes. Do you have any idea what a vacuum tube is? You do. All right, see me after. Ferrite cores. Do you have any idea what a ferrite core memory is? Did you even know they existed? Yeah, sure. All that stuff was hot when I was your age. And then it's all gone. Silicon's going to move into that bucket. You know that. Very exciting time. Not for you to worry if you're not interested. We'll come up with something. We'll get to yada. We'll get to yocto. Trust me. There will be something driving it, but the question is, what are you going to do with it? Are you enabled? Are you enabled correctly? Are you digitally savvy? Does UVM help you become digitally savvy? Do they promote your digitally savviness? Whatever you are, artist, doctor, teacher, lawyer, writer, I don't care. You can't function in this part of the 21st century if you're not digitally savvy. Look, he's sitting here with this thing. I'll bet you half of you have your device on. Some of you are taping me. Others of you are actually videotaping me, and it's perfectly fine with me. I really don't care. You've seen nothing in terms of what's going to happen. The question is the rest of the country with you? Is that where we are? And what about the people who aren't fortunate enough to go to UVM? What about the people who will never get a college education? What about mid-skilled America? What are we doing to help them? Who are they? Where are the manufacturing jobs of the 21st century? What is going on? Does anybody know? This report, there's paper in the back for you to, this is the National Academy report. I was fortunate enough to chair this. Read it. Talks about the gap. Talks about what happens if we don't address the gap. And it's all skill-based. There is a real palpable issue. And we've got to change the way we educate people. We've got to change the way we talk about manufacturing. We've got to change the workflow process. Workflow hasn't changed probably in 50 years. Engineers are too frightened that they're not going to have a job, so they keep holding on to everything, and they shouldn't be doing that. They should be flowing work. First thing they taught me when I went to IBM is, when you're done with that idea, you get it to this guy right here because he's a technician. He'll do a better job with that than you will. It doesn't need to be invented. You invented it. Go do the next one. We don't do that. We hold on to everything because we're not sure there's a there there. And in the process, we dry up the middle. And that's what's wrong. Manufacturing jobs, yeah, they're all being displaced. Now, not all of them, but a lot of them are being displaced. We're automating things. We're removing people. We're not putting people in. We're taking them out. What do we do with the people we took out? These people deserve something. They deserve an opportunity to be educated. They deserve an opportunity to change. They deserve an opportunity to become better, don't they? Don't they? Of course they do. Why not? It's America, for goodness sakes. We're supposed to be doing this for and to each other. This report starts to address exactly that. I'm going to give you a very small, by the way, we looked at all the jobs we lost in the last 10 years. All the manufacturing jobs that we lost in this country for whatever reason in the last 10 years. We said, bringing them back tomorrow. How many of them resulted in real work in this country? Got a guess? None? He's close. 5%. There's no content. That's why the jobs aren't here. There is nothing there. The nature of work has changed. So what we need to do is to figure out how to bring together a few ideas. We need to bring together this idea of innovation. How do we, as the United States of America, continue to be the hotbed of innovation for not ourselves, but the world? We want to be that innovation hut, and we are for the most part. Whether it's physical sciences, or whether it's life sciences, or political sciences, or social sciences. I'm not saying we're all by ourselves. I'm not saying there aren't smart people all around the world. That's acknowledged to be true. But on par, on average, we're better than they are. Why? Why are we better than most countries in the world? Simple. Keep it simple. It's because we're the land of the free and the home of the brave. You're free to think. You're free to come up with your own idea. That's exactly right. Give that guy an A too, by the way. That's exactly why you've got to continue to be hopeful here in the United States of America. You got to ask questions. We have to start asking simple questions. Like, I'm the NSF. I want to give you $10 million to do your work. And we wish you well. You competed for it, you deserve it. But not once did I ever say to you, and by the way, if you're successful, where are you going to actually build that? Where are you going to actually do that? We don't ask that in this country. We don't have what's called a directed economy. You familiar with that? We don't tell you what's best for you, do we? Do we say to you, look, you come here only if you can do this? We don't do that in this country. This is back to the free choice, right? But we miss the obvious things too. We don't ask the next question. And sometimes that's all it takes to be innovative, is to ask the next question. So we're all for creating value, right? Nobody's against creating value. Are you all for making value? Delivering value? Do you even think that way? No. Little example, holding it right here in my hand. This little device, you can buy it off the internet. It's called the DART, D-A-R-T. A woman entrepreneur, who I support, created this company called Fin6, F-I-N-S-I-X, now based in Menlo Park. All right, Vanessa, what do you want from me? Well, you know, I got this smart guy who graduated from MIT with me. He's very good at mapping high voltage stuff into the frequency domain. And we're going to do all the high voltage stuff in low voltage devices by mapping everything into the frequency. And we're going to do it, therefore, lighter, cheaper, smaller than anybody else. A 65-watt power supply. Right here. It's universal. It fits every computer known to humankind. You just get a little thing stick in the end, and they give you a fitting that goes to every computer. 65 watts. That's pretty clever, isn't it? I mean, I don't know, what does your brick look like? I mean, you carry around a laptop, don't you? It has a little brick of some kind. I call it the brick. You know what I'm talking about. How about if you only had that? Would that make your backpack a little lighter? Wouldn't that be clever? Doesn't that sound like a good idea? In less than 20 days, she raises $500,000 on Kickstarter. She gets a $5 million contract with Lenovo. She leaves Back Bay, Boston. Her and her partner, unfortunately, everybody else got fired. They go to Menlo Park on the other side of the railroad tracks, very low cost, efficient place. They got a company of 50, 60 people now, the DART. So I said to her, okay, I'll give you a B. She said, what? What are you giving me a B for? My VCs are applauding me. I'm returning capital. My time to market is short. Does this ring a bell with some of you business people? You know, give me my money, give me my money, give me my money. You know, where did you make it, Vanessa? Oh, we're making it. Where do you think she's making it? Tell me where. Just first words. Where do you think she's making this device? Where are you making it? China. Say it. We're throwing it into the supply chain. There's no value, Nick. There's no value for us to make it anywhere else. I said, what? I'm an investor in this company. I said, not on my nickel. No. No. Why can't you make it in America? You just told me there's only 3 chips in here. I'll become the manufacturer. You send me the chips, I'll get somebody to make the case, I'll shove all this crap together, I'll glue it together, I'll test it. How hard can this be? How hard can this be? I said, Vanessa, you're missing a huge marketing opportunity here because you're not capturing the value that you're creating. You're just not. You're letting somebody else do it because you're moving to a different set of metrics, a different drummer. Time to market. Where's my cash? I need my money back. You know, the bills need to be paid. Your interest is rising. Give me more equity in your company. Does this sound like anything that you might be learning in class? If you were able to read what's on here on the manufacturing plate, you would see 65-watt DART made in the USA. She did it. She listened. I always worry when I tell people what to do because I worry that they're going to actually follow my directions. And then I'm stuck like, oh my God, did I do the right thing? Did I do the wrong thing? Of course, now what immediate market is available to her? What's the market that's available to her? The US government. You're right. They have more computers than anybody else. How about all of the unfortunate people that we deploy, out of Washington? They got PACs. How'd you like to walk around with this as opposed to a brick snapped to your back? It's going to be a wildly successful little company because I asked one more question. Where are you going to create that value? And how are you going to capture that value? We briefed Congress on this. We briefed both houses. We briefed the president's office on this. I was chastised by the NSF for daring to mix streams. The Ghostbusters movie, don't mix those streams. Like, what are you doing? You can't ask people who you're giving grant money to tell you where they're making it. I said, I didn't say they had to declare where they're making it. I'm not looking for them authoritatively to certify they're going to make it here. I just asked you to ask them. Just ask that question. If you're successful, where are you going to make it? You get the money, you get your grant, but doesn't it start to make a little different sense? If we don't do this, the middle just becomes the middle. It gets bigger. The gap gets wider. We have to find a way to close it. We have to engage. And we're smart enough. That little thing, I don't know that we put 5 people to work, so please, I can't save the world with that dart. But why can't everybody act and behave the same way? We're innovative. We're creative. There's nobody, I am absolutely sure that China is taking that device apart. They're building one as fast as they can. They'll have it in the marketplace for half the price. It's $100. They'll have it in the marketplace for half the price. So what? It still won't be made in America. So where is value? As an innovator, think this way. Am I making sense to any of you? Yeah? You get the picture? It's no more complicated than that. And technically I am not the brightest person in the world. I am not the sharpest knife in the drawer. I don't ever pretend to be. I led all these wonderfully gifted and talented people up here in the front row because they were nice enough to let me lead them. Truth be known, they're all smarter than I am. One by one, they're all individually brighter than I am. I just saw things a little differently and felt that the better thing to be is an enabler. Enable you to do better. Enable you to be innovative. Enable you to create value. Enable you to actually capture and make value. That's what it's all about. So here you are, Vermont, 500,000 people. This is what you have to do. You have to kind of come together. You have to think about this. You have it within your wherewithal to pull this thought process together. You really do. You've got clever people. You've got hardworking people. Things you do here have to have a consequence there. And that's the way you here at UVM need to think. Your relationships with the Vermont state colleges, with the technical colleges, in that report, by the way, it wasn't an accident. It's important. It's important. They may never get here. If they do get here, we ought to pave the road and make it easier for them to get here. They may never get here. They may be the people actually making the value that you create. And by the way, I don't care. It doesn't have to be that manufacturing device. It could be a medical device. It could be literature. It could be art. It could be music. It could be anything. Anything. Unless you think this way. I'm going to close with a famous saying from a guy who meant a great deal to me. I'm Italian. I get a little choked up at this point as I try to wind this thing down. And that's my beloved father. He's passed away about 15 years ago. Tough guy. First generation American. Worked 3 jobs. Never got out of the 10th grade in high school. Four kids. I'm in the middle. I'm not the oldest. I'm not the youngest. Tough guy. You know, he meted out justice at dinner. You know what I mean? Italians, you know, paka paka la ghoul. Does anybody know what that means besides me? That means, you know, my sisters would rat me out at dinner time. I could eat my dinner in less than 5 seconds. Because if I didn't have it down in the first minute of the dinner, I wasn't going to get it. Because I was going to get it. I was going to get something entirely different for dinner. I always lived in awe and fear of him until this one time when we just finally came together. And when I finally questioned him as to why. Why was he always forcing me to be different than anybody else? Why was he always building a changed environment for me compared to everyone else in my class, let alone my brother and my 2 younger sisters? Why, Dad? I'll never forget. He just sat there and looked at me just like you're looking at me. And I knew I was safe because he was very calm, just as you are. And he said to me, because if nothing changes, nothing changes. How simple. How simple. It drove me. It is my philosophy of life. It's who I am. It's why I am who I am. So you can wish and will all you want. If you don't change something, all you're going to get is what you've been getting. So why do you keep doing it over and over again, hoping for a different outcome? You can't do that. Innovators don't do that. You want to be an innovator? You want to make a difference? I want you to. The state wants you to. Reflect a little bit on what I've said then. Think about what I'm talking about. Does that make sense to you? Does it help guide you as you go forward? Does it help guide you if you're a faculty member or an administrator here, actually deliver education that are preparing these young people for the tough part of the 21st century? We've gone through the easy part. We glided in. Now you got to get out. It's not going to get easier. It's going to get harder and harder and harder. But you live in the land of the free and the home of the brave. You live in the United States of America. Endless, boundless opportunity. You have to have the endless, boundless energy to make a difference. Thanks for listening today. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. You're very kind. We do have some time left. I actually surprised myself. I'm right on time for a totally unscripted script. So we have microphones over there if you'd like to ask questions or if you'd like to debate anything I said. Yes. Here, you can just talk right there. We know each other. You can talk right there.
Thank you.
Yeah, I got it. Okay. Take your time.
My question is,
yes,
what I got from this talk is that nothing will change unless we cooperate with each other and also we become problem solvers. These are the two things. I mean, as Steve Jobs, he was not an engineer, but he was a problem solver.
Indeed,
he spotted where the problems were and he tried to solve it, and very successfully he did it.
Okay.
But my question, you are a computer scientist and head of IBM and everything. My question is that this computer, as I see, as I see this computer and all those little gadgets that iPhone, whatever.
Yeah.
People are using it even in middle of the conversations.
Sure.
They distract themselves and
Sure.
and I feel that it is taking time away from conversations where people can come together, and it is keeping people, in my opinion, isolated from each other. So how we can come together and how we can innovate to, solve the problems. How can we be the problem solvers if we don't?
Got it. It's a good question. Did my wife call you and ask you to ask that question? I go through this all the time. We're having these unplugged days now. Are you into unplugged? So look, there's always a ditch on both sides of the road. There's always good that comes from technology. There's always potential bad that comes from technology. You have to be realistic about this. You have to be totally aware of this. You have to be totally, of a mind that says, here's my philosophy. This is what it'll do. This is what it won't do. It can do this, it can't do that. So to your point, balance is always important. Nobody says be all one thing or another. Be balanced in the way you do things. I would hope you can actually write a paper on your own. I hope that you actually walk, talk, and chew gum. Can you speak? I mean, you're okay, right? This is what's fundamental. If you don't have those core skills, don't look to the computer to get it for you. In fact, I heard this just the other day. I give all the credit to Ginny Rometty, the CEO and chairman of IBM. AI. What does AI mean? Artificial intelligence. No, it doesn't. It means augmented intelligence. Artificial is, back to her point, it becomes threatening. It's never going to be truly artificial. I mean, you're a relatively young man, but not even in your lifetime will it truly be artificial intelligence. Augmented intelligence, it helps you do your job. Use it in a right. Yes, there'll be bad things that happen. I'm not saying there won't be bad things. We're shoving it into cars, maybe a little too soon. It's going to be exciting to see all these cars driving themselves. I have a Tesla, it drives itself. My wife refuses to get into the Tesla if my hands aren't on the friggin' steering wheel. Now Tesla, by the way, puts this little note on the dashboard that says, keep your hands on the steering wheel. So my wife got the Tesla as well. It's very interesting. She's a powerful woman. So this is what you have to be grappling with. Where's the balance? It can't all be one way or the other. I mean, if talking matters, talk. If writing matters, write. If texting matters, text. If calling matters, call. Don't be afraid of it, but please don't be abusive of it. Don't be afraid of it. Don't be afraid of it. AI, remember that. I know you will. We're going to have a paper due, by the way, on this topic. Augmented intelligence. Think about it. Are you frightened of a thing like Watson? Just because it beats the guys playing Jeopardy? That's no reason to be frightened of it. Think of all the better diagnosis it can give. Think of all of the help it can give to political science or political thinkers or lawyers or doctors. Think of all the good that can come of the decisions that are made when those decisions are augmented with access to a vast amount of technology. That's the way you have to think about this. Yes, sir. Oh, we'll go to you and then him. Go ahead, please.
So I'm Paul Hines. I'm a professor here and also the co-founder of a startup in the energy space.
Yep.
And we've been struggling a little bit trying to figure out intellectual property. So you mentioned this a little bit, the changing role of patents.
Yes.
There's more patents out there, and it's also a lot easier to copy intellectual property, even if it is patented or trade secreted. So what's your perspective on that? So for small startups, what should their strategy be in terms of developing intellectual property?
So I actually am a supporter of intellectual property. I think you have to be respectful and find the core property to intellectualize. Not everything you can think of is worth intellectualizing. We've flooded the courts with far too many patents. We've also broadened the patent definition. We have software as a patent. Services, we're still debating over whether they're patents or not. So we're doing it to ourselves. And then we've created a whole industry of patent trolls who run around buying your patents and just threatening everybody else with their patents. So that's another case of where there's a ditch on both sides of the road. So it becomes, I won't say philosophical, but it becomes personal. You have a company, you have to decide that. We're gonna protect this. We're gonna file a patent for this. We're not gonna tell anybody about that. Trade secrets work just as well in certain circumstances. But I think that becomes you shape that. Don't wait for the courts. It'll be too late by the time they do that. Okay? And this man down here?
Thank you.
Yes.
Innovation inside government seems like a luxury. I see agency heads who are fearful of failure and protective of their resources. What can you say to make us optimistic that innovation is possible from within state or city government through collaboration?
I served, as David said, on Secretary Chu's advisory board for the Department of Energy. I think they did a very creative thing when they created, the energy version of DARPA and funded a lot of very good. Some of the money I think came here at one point in time. We had a big green meeting up here with the Department of Energy. There are people who are willing to go out, who put themselves out there. It takes people. It takes leadership. The system all by itself will always want to move you back to the middle. That's the way governments work. But it's all about leadership. Let me give Governor Shumlin a little credit for asking for this report, to be honest with you. I mean, I had a lot of better things to do with my life in 2012 than to schlep up here, 4 or 5 times to do this report. But I did it because he thought it was that important. And then President Sullivan comes on board. He thinks it's even more important. So it's leadership. It's people saying, we're going to ask you to step in and do something different. Sometimes you're better served doing things slightly outside of the government, like through these requests. I've had my chances to go to work for the Obama administration. I refused them all. And I told the president, I will serve you better as a concerned citizen than a civil servant. But listen to what I'm telling you. If you ask me for my opinion, I'm going to give it to you. I said the same thing to Governor Shumlin. I said the same thing to Tom when we took this role on. We'll do the work. We'll put 18 months into this report, but please do something with it in the final analysis. So I don't want you to think that it can't be dealt with in a hybrid model. You don't have to be inside to do the innovation. You can be outside, connected to the inside, and get a lot of wonderful things done. I absolutely believe that this Making Value report, we're going to do another update to this in the next couple of months. We will brief the new administration, I guarantee you. We will brief the new legislature, and I'm absolutely confident something will come of this. Whether it's the equivalent of the GI Bill for displaced workers, in the mid-skilled America or not, I don't know. But why would I stop? Why would I stop trying to do that when I know that my idea is better than their idea? And I do not want to become them. And that's something, those are personal decisions that you have to make. Does that make sense to you? Yes.
I'm Joe Hasselman. We exchanged a few emails.
Yes, we did
currently,
indeed. Yes.
In strategy at IBM Watson. So
Yes.
It's a pleasure.
Good to see you.
So I think a key theme that you've had in this talk is standing on the shoulders of the giants proceeding. And if I think through the real hotbeds of innovation in this country, it's ones that are creating or leveraging the ecosystem around them. San Francisco with Stanford, Boston, MIT, and Harvard. And as an impassioned believer of Vermont's economy, I critically think, and with my buddies here, we have these conversations often about the strengths of Vermont and the University of Vermont ecosystem. Could you speak to a bit on the opportunities that might exist leveraging the strengths of this current ecosystem?
Yeah, I think remember I lived here for 15 years, probably longer than you. I had 2 kids here, one of them sitting over there. Our daughter was born at the hospital. Our son lives here with his family. We still come here often. Vermont's in our hearts, just to be brutally candid with you. If we could have stayed here, we would have stayed here. It's a wonderful place to be. Not necessarily a wonderful place to be from. So I wished we were still here in many ways. Use your size, for goodness sakes. You're only 500,000 people. How the hell hard can it be? I can pick up the phone and call the governor. I picked up the phone and called every freaking governor you had from when I was here back in 1972. And they answered. The governor answered the phone. I don't like this, I don't like that, what about this, what about that, you know? And we had Green Mountain Power here. I mean, of course we're the biggest consumer. Yes, we'll pay attention to you. What do you want? I mean, what's the problem? Did you know we actually got the state to stop the friggin' Winooski when we built the bridge to go to Williston? The Winooski's never been stopped. We got him to stop the Winooski. How about that? Only in Vermont. Try that in Connecticut. Try that in New York State. Try that in California. See how you like it. Or in Boston. Use your capabilities. Use your size to your advantage. You know you've got gifted and talented people here. Some of the work that you're trying to innovate, how have you reached out to the middle class? The middle skilled? How have you reached out to those displaced workers? Why can't you do something to bring them in? Where is your equivalent of making that thing in the United States of America? Where is that idea? Or is your idea, no, I don't care. I'm just going to create it and I'm going to market as fast as I can because my investors are breathing down my neck. Or worse yet, my wife tells me the kid needs braces, so I got to go. Use your size. You've got the talent. Look at what David and Tom are building here, for goodness sakes. Look at that STEM complex they're building here. It's connected to everything. It'll be the biggest T-shaped thing in the world. I wish the building was a little more T-shaped. I could use that in my talk. But, STEAM is just as important as STEM. The arts in the big A sense. I've already said to you, you have to be broad, multidisciplinary in your thinking. You know that. You're right in the hotbed of all of this thinking. Why can't you do more with that here? Why everything you need is here. You don't need to go anywhere else. Why hasn't it happened? I know why. I've been here longer than you. You can't make up your mind. You're in, you're out. I've been here. I was on the advisory board of the engineering school like 100 years ago. We had the LSI Institute with IBM. You let that go too. I mean, are you in or are you out? Where are you as a university? Help them make their mind up. Help them get it right. I have nothing against the administration, nothing against the faculty. You outnumber them by what? David, what? 5,000 to 1 or something like that? I mean, you can't win that war? What is wrong with you? He's up there. We have one more up there.
I was glad I put my hand up when I did because that was a great ending question there. My name is Dave Connery. I'm a UVM graduate from 1990. And as David Rozovsky tells everyone when I meet someone, I also graduated from RPI, my master's degree. At some point during your talk, it struck me as you might have an opinion on the development of our kids. And when I talk about kids, I talk about kids of my children's age who are in 4th and 6th grade. If I want a kid to learn to play hockey, I know that there is a very defined place where I would go in order to get him the initial skills and a structure to move him through. And there's many other examples of how to do that. Sometimes I feel like young parents, they don't know how to guide their kids through, how do I teach these kids that putting Mentos into a 2-liter bottle is not just blowing some bubbles out the top, but it's a way to harness energy and move an object through space. What are some of your thoughts on how, as young parents, we can get our kids involved in STEM in an imaginative way and help them learn to be in the middle?
So thank you for the question, and we will wrap it up on that question. It's very important. Number one, I hate to tell you, the responsibility is yours. You know that. It's mine. It was mine with my children. It's yours with your children. And I feel somewhat obligated for my grandchildren as well. There are ways and mechanisms. Have you heard of the maker movement? Engage. You want to engage your children at a very young age in the science and the engineering and the technology. Engage them in the maker movement. It's a wonderful, easy, low cost approach. And it all of a sudden reminds people, oh my gosh, you can really do that now. We got these 3D printers. We can make one of those things. Hey, that sounds like fun. Let me make this. I'll make that. Let's do this. You can additive this. You can additive that. All of a sudden, you're doing chemistry. You're doing engineering. Life sciences will be just as facile, in this area. So engage. You got the Eco Museum, don't you? Isn't that something like a science museum? I've been there a number of times. Given them money too, by the way. I think that's what you as parents want to do, is expose them. They'll see hockey, they'll see basketball, they'll see baseball, they'll see football, they'll see soccer, they'll see that. But they don't necessarily see what you're pointing at, which is the opportunity to engage them in other things. Do that. Take advantage of movements like that. I know somebody's trying to put the maker movement together here in Vermont. I was just saying, next weekend in New York City, New York Hall of Science, Maker Faire weekend, be 125,000 people there. It's the second biggest Maker Faire in the country. I'm on their board, by the way. I was the chairman of the New York Hall of Science. I'm proud of that. I'm proud of the maker movement. I think that has something to do with changing the perception here, along with asking the one more question, and where are you going to make it? Or how are you going to make it? Why wouldn't you want to make it, to your son or your daughter? Why wouldn't you want to see this cool stuff? It's pretty powerful. And the other way, I don't know if you still do it, but I'm a big fan of National Engineering Week. I used to go to 6 or 7 schools. Go to the schools, go to the middle schools, go to where their opinions are being formed, the 4th and the 5th grade. There's nothing like liquid nitrogen. There's nothing like showing them superconducting materials. There's nothing like showing them the transformation of a rose, into this brittle glass that you break, and then watch them understand how it transforms itself back into that broken rose. Those kinds of things you and I can do to engage. And the engineering department, the science department, and the students here should be doing that. Engineering Week, it's President's Week. Isn't it still President's Week? Get out to the schools. Get out, not just to the high schools and to the high middle schools. Get out to the 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade. That's where the impressions matter. Lots of science on this. Lots of data on this. That's where it becomes formative. And by all means, more women in life sciences are required. God bless them all in physical science. We have them all in life sciences. My daughter's a life scientist. We need more women in the physical sciences. It's still a man's game, and it shouldn't be. It shouldn't be. So help me. I give him money. All the money I give him goes for, I'm not kidding you, it goes for women in STEM. And that's the way it's going to be. So good luck to you all. Thanks for staying. You've been a wonderful audience. Good to see you all. Thank you.